ask you, do you know what the difference between Latina or Hispanic and Spanish is?
Between Latina, Hispanic, and Spanish.
I would have to say where they live.
Okay, so like geographic.
Geographic.
I mean, they're just different ethnicities. I mean, between Mexican to Latin America to, European.
What is the difference between the terms Hispanic, Latino, and Spanish? Well, the US Census doesn't really help us with that since they ask if person 1 is of Hispanic, Latino, or Spanish origin. Now, it's important to know that being someone who's Spanish is someone who comes from Spain. It makes sense why people confuse these three terms because people in Spain do speak Spanish. If you speak Spanish, it doesn't mean that you're from Spain. Being Hispanic is someone whose heritage includes Spanish-speaking people from anywhere, including Spain, and this Hispanic identity is tied to language, and it does exclude Brazil because they do speak Portuguese. People from Spain, or Spanish people, are Hispanic. If you're Latino, you're someone who can trace their heritage to at least one of 33 countries in Latin America and the Caribbean, including Brazil. The Latino identity is tied to geography and does not include Spain. Someone who is Hispanic doesn't necessarily have to be Latino, or someone who is Latino doesn't have to be Hispanic. Identifying either Hispanic or Latino has been a question that many people struggle with. The US uses both terms to describe this population, and some people use it interchangeably. However, among Hispanics themselves, many are ambivalent about the two terms. According to a new Pew Research Center survey of Hispanic adults, half say that they have no preference for either term. But among those who do have a preference, Hispanic is preferred over Latino by a ratio of about 2-1. Based on the US Census, 17.6% identify as Hispanic or Latino. But remember, Hispanic and Latino, they're both not races, so a Hispanic or Latino can be made up from different races. In Spanish, the word Latino traditionally encompassed both male and female genders, according to the rules of the Spanish language. People later on started using Latino/A, Latino or Latina, to make sure that we include both male and female genders. And later on, it transitioned to Latino, Latina with the @ symbol to be gender neutral.
Alternative to the terms Latino and Latina, Latinx is used by scholars, activists, and an increasing number of journalists, and is quickly gaining popularity among the general public. However, it was not until 2014 that we saw this new term, Latinx, begin truly appearing on the internet, at least in mass scale. According to Google Trends, the number of times Latinx was used as a term spiked in the US in 2016. Latinx first emerged in 2014 among left-leaning and queer communities as a way to promote inclusivity in language. Many consider the origins of the term Latinx as part of the linguistic revolution that aims to move beyond gender binaries. Spanish, as you may know, is a gendered language. This means that all nouns in Spanish have genders. Following the rules of the Spanish language, the word Latino traditionally encompasses both male and female genders. However, this is the exact gripe many have with the word Latino, and the term Latinx is a term that is used to resist the gender binary of men and women. Special to the term Latinx, it is considered to be inclusive of the intersecting identities of all Latin American descendants and racial backgrounds. Thus, the term Latinx moves beyond the masculine-centric identifying term Latino and makes room for people who are trans, queer, agender, non-binary, gender non-conforming, or gender fluid. For many writers, they use the term Latinx in order to be gender inclusive when referring to people of Latin American descent.
There are arguments against the use of the term Latinx. For example, Guerrero and Orbia argue against the use of the term Latinx. They claim that the term Latinx is becoming a buzzword. that the term is a blatant form of linguistic imperialism that is being used in the US only, and that its use cannot be considered as Spanish speaking. You can see that in the statistics of the usage of the Latinx word, and these countries are far vast in comparison to the United States. The United States with 87.5%, Canada at 0.9%, UK at 0.8%, Argentina at 0.5%, Colombia at 0.5%, Spain at 0.4%, Germany at 0.4%, and the Philippines at 0.4%. Latinx is a term arguably used by the elitists. In the United States, the term Latinx is used amongst the top colleges, while actual Latin American countries do not use the term. Cristobal Salinas Jr. agrees that Latinx is used mostly by students in college and universities. The term Latinx has not evolved within the general population. Rather, it has gradually gained increased use in higher education scholarship with no standard or official definition. Eric Cesar Morales expands on Cristobal's argument by saying that the term does not correspond to Spanish syntax, and this will prevent Spanish-dominant people from identifying with it, creating a larger schism between recent Latino immigrants and American-born Latinos. Additionally, there is something incredibly condescending for an English speaker to tell recent immigrants that Spanish is gendered and patriarchal language, but not to worry, because they can fix it with a term that does not conform to Spanish grammar. Although the term does not correspond to Spanish syntax, the more pressing matter is that the term is mostly used by the educated minorities in the United States. Latinx is not really used by the working class immigrant adults in the United States, and they're probably not even aware that this debate is even going on.
We're here on the streets of New York City to find out the answers of the burning questions: to Latinx or not to Latinx? Have you heard of the term Latinx?
Latinx? No, that's my first time hearing about that.
Latinx.
Latinx?
Have you heard this word?
Never before.
Latinx? No.
You seen this expression Latinx?
I haven't.
Latinx.
No tengo ni idea de qué significa la palabra, sinceramente.
Thinking. No.
No. Is it a channel?
No, but have you heard of the iPhone X? That's similar.
Similar to what?
iPhone X.
Looks like medicine name.
Latinx. I don't know. Is it like Malcolm X? I don't know.
Oh. X. Like ex-girlfriend. Latinx.
Latinx is just like a gender neutral term, especially with like modern age, like the more people are coming to identify less with like male and female and kind of finding themselves in between. So kind of, especially with Spanish being like a very gendered language, having something like Latinx for people who don't identify with like both male and female specifically.
The term Latino kind of denotes the masculine form, and so it's inclusive. It includes all genders instead of just like the masculine form.
That's to encompass male, female, cisgender, transgender, the whole spectrum.
I think it refers to like everyone, because some people don't like being defined as like Hispanic, and some people don't like being defined as like Latina or Latino.
The usage of the term Latinx is still greatly discussed among different people, especially in the media. However, these discussions mainly take place in higher education.
Chris, I'm a transgender non-conforming person, and I identify as Latinx. Latina and Latina don't fit me. I float somewhere in the middle.
It's up to the person that wants to identify however they choose to.
I think it's too much. I mean, I'm sorry, but why getting like so much more complicated? This is the thing. No, for real, like in...
A group of women are called Latinas, but if one man joins the situation, suddenly the group is now called Latinos, which is just one example of how the language has an inherent preference for masculine over feminine.
So the more pressing questions are, will these discussions take place outside of academia? Will they be used in Latin America? Will there ever be a consensus?
It's kind of up to the Latino community to decide how they want to be called. If it ends up being Latinx, I'll use that.